Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd love to know what you think. Every comment helps me make the next story better. Subscribe to stay tuned. I pulled into the parking lot at the Griddle Cafe at 11:23 a.m. on a Sunday, bone tired from working a 6-hour morning shift that had started before dawn. My shoulders ached. My back was stiff. All I could think about was my bed and maybe some leftover Chinese food from the fridge. But my wife had texted 3 times reminding me about brunch with her friends. The first message came at 8, then 9:30, then 10:45 with 3 question marks. I'd forgotten about it completely, honestly. Worked straight through without checking my phone. All I wanted was to go home and sleep. But I went anyway. That's what you do, right? You show up. You make the effort. I went home first, took a quick shower, put on a clean shirt and jeans. Drove from our place in the valley all the way to West Hollywood. Found parking 4 blocks away because that's how it always is on Sunset Boulevard on a Sunday. The walk gave me time to prepare mentally for the performance I was about to give. Me, the husband who never quite fit in with her friend group. The guy who worked with his hands while they worked in marketing and PR and whatever else they did that allowed them to brunch on Sundays. I could hear their laughter from half a block away. High-pitched, performative, the kind of laughter that carries. Should have known then. Should have turned around and gone home. But I didn't. The outdoor patio was packed with the usual weekend crowd. Mimosas everywhere, overpriced avocado toast, eggs Benedict that cost more than I made in 2 hours of work. California sun beating down on people who had nowhere more important to be. Young couples taking photos of their food. Groups of women in designer sunglasses. The whole West Hollywood brunch scene in full effect. My wife was already seated at a corner table with 4 of her friends. I recognized all of them from various dinners and events over the years. She didn't stand when she saw me approaching, didn't smile or wave enthusiastically, just raised her hand slightly and gestured to the empty chair at the end of the table, like I was late to her party, which I guess I was, by her standards. I sat down at the end of the table, in the chair that had clearly been added as an afterthought. The conversation barely paused for my arrival. They were deep into discussing some upcoming girls' trip to Palm Springs, spa reservations, which boutique hotels had the best pools, whether they should rent a house instead. The kind of trip that cost more than I made in a month. I caught the server's eye and ordered coffee. Black, nothing fancy. The server nodded and disappeared. Nobody at the table asked how my morning had been. Nobody asked why I looked tired. The conversation just continued around me like I was furniture. I pulled out my phone and checked my messages. Nothing important, just work stuff. I put it away and tried to tune into what they were talking about. Something about a poolside cabana and bottle service. My wife was animated, gesturing with her hands, her mimosa sloshing slightly in its glass. One of the women, Mallory, finally acknowledged me. She had short blonde hair and worked in real estate, I think. Or maybe property management. Something like that. "How's work going?" she asked, though her tone suggested she was just being polite. Filling dead air. Before I could answer, my wife cut in. "He's always working." She didn't look at me when she said it. Just took another sip of her mimosa. I basically live like a single woman anyway. The table laughed. All 4 of them. Like she'd said something clever instead of something cruel. Like it was funny that I worked hard to keep us afloat. "Girl, I'd never put up with that," another one said. I didn't know her name. Didn't care to learn it. She wore expensive sunglasses pushed up on her head and had that particular shade of blonde that costs hundreds of dollars to maintain. Seriously, a third one chimed in. "Life's too short." I sipped my coffee when it arrived and stayed quiet. This was normal. I was used to being the joke at these things. The husband who worked too much, who wasn't successful enough in the right ways, who didn't quite belong in their world of bottomless brunches and designer handbags. I paid 70% of our bills. Covered the mortgage most months. But that wasn't interesting enough to mention at brunch, I guess. They moved on to other topics. Shopping at some boutique in Silver Lake. Gossip about people I didn't know. Complaints about their own husbands and boyfriends. How someone's partner forgot their anniversary. How another one never wanted to go out anymore. The mimosas kept flowing. My wife was on her 3rd by the time the food started arriving. Plates of eggs and avocado and artisanal bread. I hadn't ordered anything. The server looked at me expectantly, but I waved her off. Wasn't hungry. Just wanted to get through this and go home. Maybe catch a few hours of sleep before I had to think about Monday. The conversation continued. My wife's voice got louder with each drink. more animated. She was performing now, I realized. Holding court. Her friends were her audience, and she was giving them a show. That's when she said it. My wife leaned back in her chair, gesturing with her glass like she was making a grand announcement. Her voice carried across not just our table, but probably the 3 tables nearest us. Honestly, I give this marriage 6 more months, tops. The laughter was immediate and loud. All 4 friends burst out laughing like she'd delivered the punchline to the world's funniest joke. The kind of laughter that turns heads. That makes other diners look over. She wasn't done. She was enjoying this. I mean, let's be real. We're on completely different trajectories now. She said it like she was discussing a business merger that wasn't working out. Clinical. Detached. Amused. More laughter. More enthusiastic agreement. You've been patient long enough, one said, shaking her head. Way longer than I would have been. Another chimed in, raising her mimosa like she was toasting my wife's forbearance. Girl, you deserve better, the third added. I set my coffee cup down carefully. My hands were steady despite my heart pounding hard enough that I could feel it in my throat. I looked around the table slowly. All 5 women were laughing. My wife was in the center, soaking it up, making exaggerated gestures with her free hand. None of them looked at me. I wasn't even there, really. I was a concept. A punchline. The disappointing husband, who'd finally be replaced. Something clicked in my head. Not shock exactly. Not even surprise. More like a door opening. Or maybe a door closing. Hard to say, but everything suddenly became very clear. This wasn't the first time she'd said something like this. This wasn't even the first time she'd said it to these specific people. The way they laughed, the way they agreed so quickly, so enthusiastically. This was a familiar topic. A running joke. I'd been the punchline for a while now. I just hadn't been there to hear it before. How many times had she sat with them and talked about me like this? How many brunches and dinners and girls' nights had featured me as the main source of entertainment? The husband who wasn't good enough. The one holding her back. The one she was planning to trade up from. The laughter started to die down. I waited until it was almost quiet. Until they were taking sips of their drinks and catching their breath. Then I spoke. Calm. Level. Like I was commenting on the weather. 6 months. The table went silent. Completely silent. My wife's smile faltered. Her hand with the mimosa glass froze halfway to her mouth. You're generous, I said, maintaining that same calm tone. I give it 6 minutes. For maybe 2 seconds, nobody moved. They thought I was joking, making a quip, playing along. Then I reached down and pulled my wedding ring off my finger. The metal slid easily over my knuckle. I'd lost weight over the past few months. Stress, probably. Working extra hours to pay for her lifestyle while she went to bottomless brunches and complained about me to her friends. I placed the ring deliberately in the center of the table, right between 2 mimosa glasses. The small sound it made when it hit the wood seemed loud in the sudden silence. A tiny metallic clink. Then I stood up. The chair scraped against the concrete patio. Still nobody spoke. The silence was complete now. Total. I could hear everything around us. Conversations from other tables. The clinking of silverware on plates. Someone's phone ringing. Traffic on Sunset Boulevard. Birds in the trees overhead. But at our table, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I looked at each of her friends briefly. Made eye contact with each one. They all looked away. Stared at their plates. Their drinks. Anywhere but at me. Then I looked at my wife. She'd gone white. Then her face flushed red, blotchy. Enjoy your brunch, I said. What? My wife's face had gone white, then flushed red. Her voice came out strangled. Babe, I was joking. She reached for my arm across the table, nearly knocking over someone's water glass. I stepped back, out of reach. It was just girl talk. Her voice had an edge of panic now. Don't be so dramatic. I looked at her friends one more time. They were all staring at their plates now, at their laps, at the remnants of their expensive brunches. The confident laughing group from 30 seconds ago had completely vanished. They looked like they wanted to disappear. To be anywhere else but here. 6 months is generous, I said, still in that same calm voice that didn't sound like mine. 6 minutes is honest. The ring's paid for. Keep it or sell it. I'm done. I turned and walked through the restaurant. Didn't rush. Didn't storm out. Just walked at a normal pace, weaving between tables. I heard my wife call my name once. Then the loud scraping of a chair as she stood up quickly. Someone at a nearby table looked over, startled by the noise. But I didn't look back. Didn't turn around. Just kept walking. Through the restaurant. Past the host stand. Through the front door and onto the sidewalk. The bright LA sun hit me like a wall. I put on my sunglasses. Started walking toward where I'd parked. 4 blocks. I didn't run. Didn't rush. Just walked at a normal pace, like I had somewhere to be and was slightly late. Like this was any other Sunday. Behind me, I heard the restaurant door open. Heard her voice calling my name. Louder this time. More desperate. But I didn't turn around. Just kept walking. After half a block, I couldn't hear her anymore. Either she'd stopped following or the traffic noise had drowned her out. Didn't matter which. My truck was exactly where I'd left it, 4 blocks away on a side street. I unlocked it, got in, locked the doors behind me. Sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. That's when the shaking started. My hands trembled. The adrenaline that I'd been holding back hit me all at once. My chest felt tight, heart pounding, breathing shallow. I forced myself to take slow, deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Something I'd learned in a stress management seminar at work once. It helped. A little. 2 minutes passed. Maybe 3. My phone started buzzing in my pocket. I pulled it out. Her name on the screen. I declined the call and just stared at the phone. I couldn't stay here. She knew what my truck looked like. Might come looking. I started the engine and drove. Not home. Didn't want to go there. Ended up at the Target parking lot 2 miles away. Pulled into a far corner spot, away from other cars. Cut the engine. Just sat there. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I looked at the screen. 8 messages already. All from her. Where did you go? Come back right now. This is ridiculous. You're embarrassing me. Please. Can we just talk? Answer me. Please. Can we just talk? Then the calls started again. I let the first one ring out. Watched her name flash on my screen until it went to voicemail. Immediately, a second call came through. I let that one go too. Then a third. A text appeared. Please. Can we just talk? I stared at that message for a long moment. The please was lowercase. Rushed. Desperate. Different from the earlier messages. I could picture her typing it with shaking hands. Tears probably running down her face, mascara smeared. Her friends probably all gone by now. Scattered. Leaving her alone with the check and the mess she'd made. I typed back one line. Nothing left to talk about. Hit send. The phone rang instantly. Like she'd been waiting, phone in hand, for any response at all. I stared at her name on the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Where are you? Her voice was thick with crying. I could hear traffic in the background. She was probably still near the restaurant. You can't be serious right now. Everyone's staring at me. That's not my problem anymore, I said. My voice sounded flat. Dead. You're throwing away our marriage over a joke? The crying was getting louder. More dramatic. Over one stupid comment? You threw it away. I just made it official. Where are you? She asked again, more desperate this time. Like if she could just see me, talk to me in person, she could fix this. Just come back. We can talk about this. Doesn't matter where I am. I'll be by the house tomorrow for my things. What? No. You can't just. I hung up, stared at the phone in my hand for a moment. Then I blocked her number. The screen showed the confirmation. This contact has been blocked. I set the phone down on the passenger seat and leaned my head back against the headrest. Sat there in that Target parking lot for another 10 minutes. Just breathing. Trying to process what I'd just done. My marriage was over. 5 years. Done in 6 minutes. Just like I'd said. Eventually, I started the truck again and drove. Not home. Couldn't face that house right now. All her stuff everywhere. The photos on the walls. The life we'd built that apparently she'd been planning to demolish for months. I drove to Sherman Oaks instead. To Coleman's apartment. Coleman and I had known each other since high school. Played on the same basketball team sophomore year. Stayed friends after. He was one of those guys who was just solid. Dependable. Didn't talk much, but was always there when you needed him. I knocked on his door at around 1 in the afternoon. Heard the TV going inside. Football. It was Sunday. Of course he was watching football. He opened the door holding a beer, wearing a Rams jersey and sweatpants. Took one look at my face and stepped aside without a word. What happened? He asked once I was inside. Need a couch for a few days? I said. You got it. He gestured to the refrigerator. Grab a beer. I did. We went back to the living room. Coleman muted the TV, but left it on. I crashed on his couch, which was old and comfortable and smelled like pizza and beer. Normal bachelor stuff. The apartment was small but clean. 1 bedroom. Good enough for one person. We watched the game for a while without talking. Coleman knew when to push and when to just let things be. This was a let things be situation. Around 6, during a commercial break, he pulled out his phone and ordered pizza from the place down the street. 2 large. Pepperoni and sausage. The pizza came during the third quarter. We ate in comfortable silence, sitting on his couch, watching men in helmets run into each other. Finally, during halftime, Coleman muted the TV and looked at me. "Want to talk about it?" he asked. I gave him the short version. The brunch. The joke about 6 months. Her friends laughing. The ring on the table. Walking out. Coleman was quiet for a moment. Took a long drink of his beer. Set it down. "She said that in public? With witnesses? In the middle of a restaurant?" I nodded. "And her friends were there? They all heard it?" "They were all laughing," I said, like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Coleman shook his head slowly. "Good riddance, man. You did the right thing." That night, I made the mistake of checking my phone before trying to sleep. 34 missed calls. 52 text messages. All from my wife, using her friends' phones after I'd blocked her number. I could tell which number belonged to which friend based on the tone of the messages. Some were angry. Some were pleading. Some tried to sound reasonable and logical. One was from Mallory. That was harsh. She was just venting. Everyone does that. You're being unreasonable. I didn't respond to any of them. Just scrolled through, reading each one, feeling more certain with each message that I'd made the right choice. This wasn't love. This wasn't even respect. This was someone panicking because their plan had blown up in their face. I turned my phone completely off. The screen went black. I lay down on Coleman's couch with a blanket he'd given me and stared at the ceiling. Tried to sleep. It didn't work well. My mind kept replaying the moment. Her voice. I give this marriage 6 more months tops. The laughter. The way none of them had looked at me. I must have fallen asleep at some point because I woke up to sunlight coming through Coleman's windows and my phone buzzing. I turned it back on at some point in the night without really thinking about it. 6:47 a.m. A text from an unknown number. "This is Taylor from yesterday. Can we talk? It's important. Taylor." I had to think for a second. Then I remembered. The quiet one from brunch. She'd sat at the far end of the table, barely said anything the whole time. Just listened while the others talked and laughed and drank. I hesitated. Showed Coleman the text when he emerged from his bedroom, hair sticking up, wearing boxer shorts and a ratty t-shirt. He read it, shrugged. Might be worth hearing what she has to say. Could be useful information. I typed back. About what? The response was immediate, not over text. "Coffee. 8 a.m. at Starbucks on Ventura?" I agreed. Got cleaned up in Coleman's bathroom. Borrowed a clean shirt since I didn't have any of my stuff. Drove to the Starbucks and got there 10 minutes early. Ordered a black coffee and sat at a corner table. Taylor showed up right at 8. She looked different than she had at brunch. Less put together. Hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. Jeans and a sweatshirt. She looked like she hadn't slept much either. She sat down across from me without ordering anything. Folded her hands on the table. Looked me in the eye. "I couldn't sleep last night," she said. "What happened yesterday? You need to know something." "Several things, actually." I waited. Took a sip of my coffee. "This wasn't the first time she said stuff like that about you," Taylor said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "She's been talking about divorce for months. Since April, at least. Maybe longer. For months." My stomach went cold. "How do you know?" "She told us. The whole friend group. She's been consulting with a lawyer. She told us all about it." Taylor's hands were clasped tight. "She said she had a strategy. Said she wanted you to be the one to end it. Said it would help her case in court." I set my coffee down. "Help her case how?" "If you left first, if you were the one to walk out, she could claim abandonment. Make you look like the bad guy in the divorce. She had it all planned out." Taylor reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. "She's been telling us stuff about you for weeks. Months. That you were controlling. That you were financially withholding. That you were emotionally distant and cold. Making you sound terrible. But my husband," Taylor continued, "he knows you. Not well, but he knows people who know you. Through work connections, mutual friends, that sort of thing. And everything she was describing didn't match up with what he'd heard about you. So last night, after what happened, I asked him about it. He said you were nothing like what she'd been describing. Said you were a good guy. Worked hard. Reliable." She turned her phone around so I could see the screen. "Yesterday, when you left that ring on the table and just walked out, something clicked for me. That took real courage, real strength, and she didn't expect it. She thought you'd just take it, like always. That's what she told us. That you were predictable, that you'd never actually leave. I looked at the phone. Screenshots of text messages. A group chat. I recognized my wife's number. Started reading. Planning the exit strategy. Discussing which lawyer friend to use. Talking about asset division. Laughing about playing the long game. One message made my jaw clench. He's so predictable. He'll probably just take it and not even fight. By the time he realizes what's happening, it'll be too late. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Taylor pulled her phone back and started sending the screenshots to my number. My husband went through something almost identical. His ex-wife tried the same strategy. It nearly destroyed him financially and emotionally. I felt sick watching it start to happen again. You deserve to know what you were actually dealing with. My phone buzzed with each screenshot as they came through. 7 in total. She's going to try to paint you as the villain, Taylor said. She's going to tell everyone that you abandoned her, that you were cruel, that you left without warning. She's probably already started. I saw the messages in the group chat last night after I got home. She's spinning the story, making herself the victim. I nodded slowly, processing this. Are you willing to testify if this gets ugly? If it goes to court? Yes, Taylor said without hesitation. What she's doing is wrong. It's manipulative and calculated, and I want no part of it. Won't this mess up your friendship with her? With the whole group? Taylor smiled, but it was sad. I already left the group chat last night. I'm done with those people. My husband's right. They're not the kind of friends I want to have. We talked for a few more minutes. She gave me her direct number, told me to call if I needed anything, any information, any testimony. Then she left to go home to her family. I sat there in the Starbucks for a while longer, staring at my phone, at the screenshots, at the evidence of my wife's calculated betrayal. It wasn't just a stupid joke at brunch. It was part of a plan. A long, methodical plan to exit the marriage on her terms, with the financial advantage, with the social sympathy, with me looking like the bad guy. Well, that plan was dead now. By afternoon, I was sitting in a Beverly Hills law office. Coleman had recommended his divorce attorney. The consultation fee was steep, but worth it. The attorney was an older woman named Ms. Reyes. No nonsense. She reviewed the screenshots on my phone with a neutral expression. You left the relationship publicly and decisively, she said. She's been planning this for months. This is actually good for you. She explained the strategy. File immediately. Don't wait for her to make the first move. Request separation of assets based on evidence of premeditated manipulation. No-fault divorce, but the evidence protects me from false claims. She wanted you to look like the bad guy, Ms. Reyes said. Instead, you look like someone who had enough. Big difference. Timeline was 4 to 6 months for finalization. Ms. Reyes would handle all communication. I was to block all contact with my wife and let the attorney deal with her. I left feeling strange. Lighter, maybe. Or just numb. That afternoon, I opened a separate bank account. Changed my direct deposit. Got a P.O. box for mail. By Tuesday morning, my wife was served with divorce papers. Coleman's phone started ringing Tuesday afternoon. My wife, trying to reach me through him. Please just tell him to talk to me, I heard her saying through Coleman's speaker. Coleman looked at me. I shook my head. He's got nothing to say to you, Coleman told her and hung up. Wednesday evening, I went to collect my belongings from the house. Ms. Reyes had arranged it. I brought Coleman and requested a police escort as a precaution. My wife's car was in the driveway when we arrived. She opened the door before I could knock. She looked exhausted. No makeup, sweatpants, hair in a messy bun. Different from the polished woman at brunch. Can we please just, she started. The officer with us cut her off. Ma'am, he's here to collect his belongings. Please let him proceed. It took 40 minutes. Clothes, laptop, personal items, tools from the garage. Coleman helped me load everything into his truck. My wife stood in the doorway the entire time, crying. When I walked past her for the last time, she grabbed my arm. I didn't mean any of it, she said. I was just showing off. I looked at her directly. Then you showed them who you really are. I got in the truck. Didn't look back. 2 weeks later, Taylor texted me an update. The brunch group had dissolved. After Taylor told the others about the screenshots and the planning, 3 of the 4 friends had distanced themselves from my wife. Only Mallory remained loyal. My wife had tried to host a wine night. Only Mallory showed up. I didn't feel satisfaction hearing that. Just emptiness. Coleman gave me other updates through his network. My wife had moved in with her parents. She'd lost her job recently, something she'd never told me. That explained part of why the divorce had been planned. She wanted to secure assets before anyone found out about her unemployment. The credit card debt was higher than I'd known. She'd been hiding a lot. She was going to hit you with all of that in court, Coleman said. Taylor's evidence killed that strategy. 1 month after the brunch, I moved out of Coleman's place into a studio apartment in Van Nuys. Small, clean, affordable, 20 minutes from work. I took extra shifts. Saved aggressively. My routine became simple. Work, gym, home, sleep. Clean. Quiet. The strange thing was the peace. I hadn't realized how exhausting the marriage had been until it was over. My wife found my new number somehow. Probably through work. A single text appeared. "I'm sorry. Can we just talk? Please?" I blocked the number immediately. A week later, she showed up in my work parking lot. I saw her car and called Ms. Reyes before even approaching my truck. That night, my attorney sent a cease and desist letter. After that, no more contact attempts. 3 months in, Ms. Reyes called with an update. "She's trying to claim you abandoned her financially. The evidence proves otherwise. You paid 70% of the bills. You were the primary earner. Her hidden job loss proves she was the one being deceptive. The judge is not impressed." The settlement came together quickly after that. I kept my truck, my personal items, my savings. She kept the house, though there was minimal equity and she'd be assuming the mortgage. She also assumed all her credit card debt. No alimony. Clean break. We signed in separate rooms at the courthouse. I never saw her that day. For months after the brunch, my supervisor pulled me aside at work. "We're creating a new team lead position. Better hours, salary instead of hourly. You interested?" "Yeah," I said. "Definitely." The promotion was official 2 weeks later. First thing I did was move to a better apartment in Studio City. 1 bedroom, actual bedroom, small patio. First place that felt like mine. One Saturday morning, I was shopping at Trader Joe's when I ran into someone from work. Austin. I'd seen her around, but never really talked to her. She was in the produce section with a friend, laughing about avocado prices. She recognized me. "Hey, you're in distribution, right?" We talked. Casual, friendly. She was funny. Easy smile. Didn't ask invasive questions. Her friend made an excuse to leave. Obvious setup. Austin looked at me. "This is forward, but want to grab coffee after we check out? There's a place next door." I was surprised but said, "Yeah, sure. That'd be good." We talked for an hour at the coffee shop. About work, about nothing important, about books and movies. She didn't ask about my divorce, though she clearly knew. Everyone at work did. I didn't offer details. The conversation just flowed. Comfortable. When we left, she said, "This was nice. Want to do it again? Maybe dinner?" "Definitely," I said. Over the next few weeks, we saw each other casually. Dinners, movies, hiking Runyon Canyon. Austin was easy to be around. No drama, no games, just honest. One night at her apartment, she asked, "You doing okay?" Like, really? I thought about it. Getting there. Some days better than others. "That's fair," she said. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." It felt different from before. Partnership, not performance. 6 months after the brunch, I ran into Taylor at Target. She was shopping with her kids. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, how are you?" We talked briefly. She told me things were good. Her husband had gotten a promotion. The kids were starting a new school year. "I heard things are going well for you," Taylor said. "I'm glad. Thanks for what you did," I told her. "Really, changed everything." "Just did what was right," she said. "Besides, she's not someone I want in my life anyway." Before we parted, Taylor looked at me. "You look good. Like, genuinely happy." I realized it was true. Coleman mentioned one night that he'd heard through the grapevine about my ex-wife. Still living with her parents. Working retail part-time. Had dated someone briefly, but it didn't work out. Still posting victim narratives online, but fewer people were engaging. "You don't care at all, do you?" Coleman asked. "Not even a little bit," I said. And I meant it. 7 months after that Sunday brunch, I was at my apartment with Austin. We were cooking dinner together, easy Sunday evening routine we'd fallen into. She was chopping vegetables while I stirred pasta sauce. "Do you ever think about that day?" she asked. "The brunch?" She nodded. "Sometimes," I admitted. "Not as much as I used to." I paused, tasting the sauce. Best thing that ever happened to me, actually. How so? Forced me to stop accepting less than I deserved. Stop making excuses for someone who didn't respect me. Finally choose myself. Austin smiled and went back to chopping. We worked in comfortable silence for a while. Later, we ate dinner on my patio. City lights visible in the distance. The conversation flowed easily about everything and nothing. Austin laughed at something I said. I realized this was what it was supposed to feel like. Comfortable, honest, present, no performance, no judgment, no scorecard, just two people building something real. My phone buzzed with a work email about Monday's schedule. Work stuff? Austin asked. Yeah, nothing urgent. I put the phone down and returned my attention to the moment. Tomorrow I'd go to a job I'd earned. Come home to a place I'd built myself. Maybe see Austin, maybe not. Either way, I'd be fine. Because I'd learned something through all of this. You can't build a future with someone who's secretly planning your exit. You can't love someone into respecting you. And you can't win a game you didn't know you were playing. But you can walk away. Start over. Build something better. Not in anger. Not in revenge. Just in quiet certainty that you deserved better. And then you build that better life. One day at a time. That's exactly what I did. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.